All right, so get this right. What if I told you we actually have the power to, like, shape our own realities? Sounds kind of crazy, I know, but we're diving deep into that very idea today. We've got quantum physics, ancient religious texts, even some personal reflections, all pointing to this wild possibility that we might actually be choosing our own reality.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
Totally. And our source material doesn't shy away from the big stuff. Right out the gate, it throws out this quote, and I'm telling you, it stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
Reality happens when we look at it. It's like something out of the Matrix, right?
Totally. I mean, it really makes you think about what reality even is, you know?
Right. And to kind of illustrate this whole mind-bending concept, our source dives into one of the weirdest thought experiments ever. Schrodinger's cat. So picture this. You've got a cat sealed up in a box, right? And inside this box, there's this device with a 50-50 chance of releasing, like, deadly poison.
Okay, I'm already creeped out.
I know, right? But here's the kicker. Until we open that box, the cat is existing in this bizarre state of being both alive and dead. It's only when we actually observe it, when we look, that the cat's fate is decided.
Okay, that is wild, but like, how does that even relate to us? You know, we're not cats in boxes, or are we?
Well, maybe in a way we are. Because what's so fascinating about this whole Schrodinger's cat thing is how it connects to the choices we're making every single day. Even just by choosing to listen to this, to engage with this information, right now you've already played a part in shaping your reality.
Whoa, I never thought about it like that.
Right. It's like that line from the source material. The subtle act of you deciding to input this information has shifted your individual potential reality. Crazy, right?
It really is. And you know, this whole idea, this observation shaping reality, it's actually a core principle of quantum physics called wave function collapse.
Ooh, break that down for me.
So imagine the universe starting out with a million different possibilities, right? Like a million paths you could take. But the moment you choose one of those paths, the moment you observe it, you engage with it, all those other possibilities, they kind of collapse. And you're left living in the reality of the choice you made.
So it's like when you wake up on a Saturday morning, there are a million things you could do, right? But the moment you choose one, say, you decide to go for a run, all those other possibilities, they just disappear. And you're living in the reality where you're lacing up your running shoes.
Exactly. And this actually brings us to another really intriguing idea from our source material, a verse from the Quran that states, "It is not their eyes that are blind, but the hearts in their breasts."
Okay, this is where things get really interesting for me. We're connecting quantum physics to, like, ancient spiritual wisdom here. It's suggesting that maybe there's more to seeing than just what our physical eyes perceive, right?
Precisely. It's not just about what we're looking at, but how we're looking at it. Our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, they all act like filters on our perception, coloring how we experience reality. Our source compares the brain to a computer, with our experiences serving as those inputs.
So our brains are like supercomputers, processing information from the world around us.
Right, but here's the catch. Just like any computer, the output in this case, our experience of reality is determined not just by that input, but by the internal programming, your beliefs, biases, past experiences, those things that make you, they influence how you process information and how you experience the world.
Okay, I'm following you. So two people could witness the same event and get the same input, but because of their different programming, they might see it in totally different ways. They'd have totally different realities.
Exactly. And our source material goes a step further, offering this really helpful list of some of those inputs that shape our reality. Things like emotions, thoughts and beliefs, biases and prejudices, knowledge and wisdom, spiritual and moral principles, even our desires, intentions, and physical and mental health. All these factors play a part.
So, like, two people could read the same news story, right?
Wow.
And one person walks away feeling hopeful, while the other feels totally defeated. Same external event, but two completely different internal realities based on their own personal programming.
That's a great example, and this is where it gets really interesting, because if our internal state is so powerful, if it can really influence our experience of reality so profoundly, then don't we kind of have a responsibility to understand how it works and how we can use it to create a reality that we actually want?
All right, you've got me hooked. This is blowing my mind wide open here. So where do we even begin to unpack this whole idea of internal programming and how it shapes our reality?
Well, a really compelling example comes from the Bible, the story of Peter walking on water.
Ah, yes. power of belief. Okay, so for everyone listening who maybe hasn't cracked open a Bible in a while, remind us about this whole Peter walking on water thing.
All right, so the story goes that Jesus was out walking on water.
Already pretty impressive.
Right. I mean, talk about a superpower. And his disciple, Peter, he sees this and he's like, understandably freaking out.
Yeah, I'd be freaking out too. Is that you? Are you walking on water?
Exactly. And Peter, he's full of faith at this point, right?
Yeah.
So he calls out to Jesus and says, Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come out to you on the water.
Bold move, Peter. Bold move.
Right. And Jesus, being Jesus, is like, come on, let's do this.
So what happens next? This is the part I always loved.
So Peter, believing it's possible, he actually steps out of the boat.
No way.
Yeah. And he starts walking on the water towards Jesus. He's literally defying gravity. But then,
here comes the doubt, doesn't it?
you know it. Peter, he takes his eyes off Jesus for even a second. He sees the wind, the waves, and that doubt starts to creep in.
That's when it all goes wrong, right?
Yep. The moment that doubt enters the picture, he starts to sink.
It's like, as long as he stayed focused on that belief, on that connection to Jesus, he was experiencing a reality where walking on water was totally possible.
That's exactly what our source material is getting at, I think. It's like this story and that whole Schrodinger's cat thing, they're both pointing to this idea that belief, like genuine, heartfelt belief, it can actually influence the reality we experience.
So what you're saying is, our minds are that powerful.
It seems like it.
Okay, so then the big question is, if our minds have the power to shape the reality we experience, what reality do we actually want to create?
That's a big one. Yeah, no kidding. It's kind of daunting when you really think about it. Like, if we actually have that much power over our reality, what are we doing with it? It's a huge responsibility, right? And it's so easy to just go through life on autopilot, letting our thoughts and beliefs run wild without even realizing the reality we're creating for ourselves. Our source material really emphasizes that we're capable of so much more. It actually uses this phrase, and it gave me chills when I read it. You have the power to witness your highest definite reality.
Okay, I love that. That's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
But how do we actually get there? How do we go from feeling stuck, like just reacting to life, to consciously designing a reality that actually aligns with who we want to be?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, I think it starts with awareness, you know?
Yeah.
Paying attention to our thoughts, our beliefs, those automatic reactions we have to things. Are we approaching life from a place of fear and limitation? Or are we open to possibilities, to growth, to seeing the good even when things are tough?
Right. It's like hitting the pause button on autopilot, like you said.
Yeah.
Tuning in to that internal programming, those default settings that might be holding us back without us even realizing it.
Exactly. And once we're aware of those patterns, once we can see them clearly, we can start to shift them. It's not about pretending everything's perfect or ignoring the challenges, but choosing to approach things differently.
So like, instead of getting totally overwhelmed by a negative news story, maybe we can choose to focus on potential solutions.
Yeah.
Or instead of doubting ourselves, we can choose to believe in our own abilities and actually take action towards our goals.
Yes. It's about recognizing that we have way more power than we give ourselves credit for. And the more we exercise that power, the more we step into that role of conscious creator, the more we can start to manifest the reality we actually want to be living in.
We are the artists of our own experience, right? So as we wrap up this deep dive, this exploration of what it really means to create our own reality, I think the biggest question our source material leaves us with is this. If you had a blank canvas in front of you, what would you paint on it? What kind of world do you want to create for yourself starting today? That's something I think we can all ask ourselves, you know. And who knows what amazing things might happen when we start to consciously create those realities. Keep those minds open, those hearts curious, and as always, keep diving deep.